reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them.
I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. The protective tariff policy of the Republicans has been made and made the lives of our countrymen sweeter and brighter.
There'll be jobs in every part of the country. Red states, blue states, cities, small towns, rural communities, tribal communities.
It would have an adverse impact on the competitiveness of some sectors of the United States economy and could significantly raise costs to households.
We won't compromise and negotiate. I'll stand up for Australia.
It's going to be a big problem for Americans as well, but we will use every tool in our toolbox to fight back.
American politicians love tariffs. They treat it as a magic elixir that solves all their problems. But in reality, it is a poisoned chalice that destroys the very economy they claim to protect.
Importers pay the tariffs, but the people who actually bear the costs of the tariffs are usually the consumers, those buying the goods subject to the tariffs, whether they are individual consumers or companies purchasing components or resources for their production. Those are the ones that bear the higher cost, and those costs affect their ability to make a profit and stay in business.
The American people are well aware of the inevitable price increases to come. They have already begun stockpiling the goods they need.
Literally, there are zero things that are completely made in the United States without some sort of raw material or manufacturing or purchasing some sort of import from another country.
This is how tariffs work. Average Americans have to pay for them. Take shoes, for example. According to Footwear Distributors and Retailers of America, 99% of all shoes sold in the U.S. are imported. China accounts for over 60% of all imports. In 2018, tariffs were imposed. That means that in 2023, Americans paid an extra $9.3 billion for shoes. $9.3 billion just for shoes. What if there are tariffs on everything?
The only thing they do is bring down the standard of living in the United States, and there are a variety of other negative aspects in addition to bringing down the standard of living at once. And you get a lot more corruption because you get the politicians involved in setting the tariffs and the trade restrictions and protectionism. And people don't like that, and so what do? You hire a lobbyist to try to become exempt from the tariff. The exemptions, the tariffs were increased, but the exemptions for various groups went up tremendously. And why were the exemptions made? Because lobbyists were paying off politicians to vote for exemptions. So it fuels a lot of corruption.
In 2018, more than 1,100 economists signed an open letter to Congress opposing the move, warning of price hikes and a decrease in U.S. exports. But the warnings didn't stop the tariff raise, just like it failed to do nearly a century ago. The Tariff Act of Smoot-Hawley of 1930, under the Hoover administration, raised U.S. tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods during the Great Depression. U.S. exports and imports both plummeted by over 50%.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, the Great Depression, passed the, the tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which raised or lowered, raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression.
Senator Smoot and Representative Hawley thought tariff hikes were the solution to foster domestic absorption to overproduction as a result of technological advancement. They thought they could help beleaguered farmers. They were wrong.
The Smoot-Hawley tariffs have a bad reputation, and for good reason. The higher tariffs reduced demand in the U.S. economy. They generated uncertainty that dampened investment in the U.S. economy, and thus undercut economic growth. The purpose was to hurt our trading partners, beggar thy neighbors, but beggar thy neighbor policies inevitably hurt the instigators as well as the target country.
It is ironic that the United States has repeatedly turned to tariffs as an economic tool. American politicians might have forgotten that it once proved to be a catalyst that propelled America down the road to revolution. On December 16, 1773, 342 chests of tea on board 3 merchant ships of the British East India Company were thrown into the sea by the Sons of Liberty. It was a protest against the British government's tea taxation, which forced America, then a colony of Britain, to pay import taxes on the tea they never agreed to. The colonists viewed them as unjust. The harsh response from the British government inflamed the resistance, setting the stage for the American Revolutionary War.
Then the Tariff of Abominations came in 1828. It was a very complicated mess and was a north-south split. And tariffs, by the way, in 1830, 2 years after the Tariff of Abominations came in, they reached a peak of 62%. So they were very high tariffs. And the kind of headline feature of the Civil War was slavery, but actually it was economic, and it was set up, as you can see, about 30 years before the Civil War actually started.
The U.S. Tariff of 1828, known as the Tariff of Abominations, imposed a 38% tax on some imported goods and a 45% tax on certain imported raw materials. The tariff was greatly opposed by the southern states, as it made imports more costly and also made it difficult for Europeans to pay for American exports. It fueled the divide between the industrial North and the agrarian South, a division which would eventually lead to Americans turning on each other. From Revolution to Civil War, from the Great Depression to today, America's tariff curse continues to haunt its economy. History's verdict is clear. When protectionism rises, prosperity falls.